You guys are having a fantastic Wednesday. It is hump day. Excited about today's call talk presentation. I got some slides that we're going to go through here in a second. Just want to go through some housekeeping items real quickly for everyone starting to join in. First of all, if you don't mind, there's a chat box right in the corner. And if you guys have any questions during this entire talk, please feel free to put your questions in the chat box and I'll get to it accordingly. I will check on it occasionally. I won't try to interrupt the flow of whatever we're talking about to answer those questions right away, but I'll definitely check in on all those. And then we'll have some time at the end, Q&A. A couple things to get us started here. Just one, where are you guys calling from or logging in from? Where are you guys at located wise? As I mentioned just a few minutes ago, I'm here in the Austin, Texas area. So it's winter for us, which is like 54 degrees, but it's overall nice and partly cloudy, so the sun's not out, but typically it is. Also wanted to find out, obviously I got a whole presentation and this is all about niching and how to use your niche to grow your business. That's really the big key here. And it's funny because I sent out the email to people and some people responded, and one person's like, oh, this sounds fantastic, but I already have a niche. I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, cool. And I said, what's your niche? And they're like, anyone breathing in central Austin, which is not a niche at all. So, just keep that in mind as we're moving through. A couple of things too, just if in the chat box, let me know what you're hoping to get out of today. And if there's any specific questions or any specific topics you'd like to cover, and I'll make sure we address those. Like I said, we have a full presentation. We'll spend some quality time together here and you'll get some actionable items that you'll be able to walk away and start using right away. The other thing here is that this might go over an hour, just depending on how the flow of everything goes. And but I want to be respectful of everyone's time, so I will try to keep it within that hour period of time. But yeah, we'll have this will be recorded, and then as far as replay goes, we're going to kind of figure that out. Most likely we'll just have it up as we do for a lot of times. We'll turn this into a class, add some items. We have some worksheets that we can throw into this, so you'll get first access to all of that. Obviously for free too. So, all right, let's get rolling here. I'm going to share my screen. And so again, guys, while we have some time here, take a minute and write in any questions, any topics, anything in particular that you're hoping to get out of today. And that way we can make sure we get that covered and we answer all your questions and make sure you get the most amount of value that you possibly could out of today's talk. There's a chat box right here. I'm just going live. All right. So we're going to start here from the beginning. Hello, everybody. Anyone coming in? Like to book title? Oh, thank you. Yeah, actually, so this book, Rick, is a fantastic book. If you get a chance to read it, I'm always big into reading things, and this one the title threw me off for a while for good reasons. I was not like into negativity, and I'm really not, but in the sense that this goes kind of against the grain. in those thought processes. And it's a self-help book, but it makes a whole lot of sense. And it's actually a really good read. So if you get a chance, definitely check it out. I highly recommend it. It's a good one. So again, guys, for anyone who's just joining us, if you have any specific topics you'd like to cover, make sure you put it in the chat box so I can make sure that by the end of this hour talk or so that we cover that. And also, if you have any questions, make sure to put it in the chat box as well. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Here we go. All right. So today we're talking about how to close 2 to 3 more deals a month by identifying your perfect client. This is really about niching. So what we're going to do is go over these 3 secrets today. The first one is how a niche will take you from 0 to 1.5 million. The second one is identifying your perfect client to close 2 to 3 more deals a month. That's where really we're going to talk about and brainstorm the different ways of identifying your perfect clients and niching down, because in any business, it makes a whole lot of sense to do this, and we'll show you why. So third here is where we're going to spend a lot of our time, a majority of our time today, is targeting your perfect client online and offline. So we have some tactics that we're going to go through, talking about using social media from an organic standpoint, but also using it from a paid advertising perspective as well, and some tactics and strategies using that so you'll be able to walk away. We'll try to cover as much as we can in this hour time. Again, it might go over a little bit, but I'm going to respect your guys' time and make sure we try to cut it off by 9 o'clock as much as we can. So, all right, let's jump into it. Before we get into it, at the end, I'm going to, after we're completed here, I'm going to send you guys a quick gift. It's going to be towards our training, and I'll fill you guys a little bit in the end as we wrap things up. And so who am I? Well, my name is Brandon Lewin. If you don't know me, I'm the president and founder of Lewin Media and Lewin University. We focus and specialize in people-based marketing for the real estate industry. And we do that by managing services, creating campaigns, and we do that through training. We actually train people. We have an online training portal that shows you these strategies, these tactics, and gets you up and running, and it allows you to use our processes that we use for managing our clients and getting results. That's really what it comes down to. Now, that's what we do, but really why I do this is a number of different reasons. One, obviously, you see my family there. So my family is my major why. We moved down here from Chicago 3 years ago. We did that because I wanted to step out of my comfort zone. I wanted to grow both professionally and personally, and this just made a great fit for us. Through that as well, I decided in the last couple of years when I moved down here, we're in the Austin, Texas area, and this is the headquarters for Keller Williams. And so I've always worked with realtors. I've been in the industry for marketing for 12 years. I've always worked with realtors and mortgage companies. I actually, back in Chicago, I had an office that was inside of real estate companies. So I worked a lot with them and their friends and partners and other people, but I never niched down specifically into that. It wasn't until 3 years ago when I moved down here that I started exploring niching down, and I started off niching into the lead generation component, a service, obviously, and then I niched into a market. And the market that I decided to go into was the real estate market. And this was for a couple of reasons. One, the beginning of 2019, I started working with MAPS Coaching. That's the coaching division of Keller Williams. And through that, the company was managing their social media. I worked closely with Diana Gurkowski, the founder of Bold, and even the marketing department inside of Keller Williams. And then we helped the coaches who coached the classes, we helped them to put into strategies and tactics to grow their audience and grow their classes and get more people aware of what they were doing. And through that process, I got to work closely with those coaches, and those coaches are very successful agents. I got to learn what they did well and what that part contributed to their success. And so, but I also got to hear the frustrations and struggles of agents who weren't yet quite at that level. And through that process, I saw a huge opportunity. One, there was an opportunity to help an industry that still needed to catch up in technology. What the real estate industry is starting to catch up a bit, but they're still well behind the digital marketing world. And so I saw a huge opportunity to educate and help people to use these tools that are available, and more so just to help them grow, because I understand what it is to be an independent provider. You know, running your own business is no different than being a real estate agent, because a real estate agent, you eat what you kill. And you don't, even though you're under a brokerage, you don't get paid by them. You actually have to pay them. And so you only get paid when you sell a property. And I understand how that works. And I've been through that. I've been at the bottom, I've been at the top, not quite to the top where I want to be, but I'm working towards that. And so I can really relate and help that industry and those people and the realtors and you guys. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing. There's such a huge opportunity to leverage these tools and some of what we'll talk about today to really grow your business in the right facet. And there's, you know, obviously the old school stuff of knocking on doors, referrals, cold calling, networking, all that stuff still works. However, you can use these tools to leverage your time to do more of that, and also to get other forms of referrals and business coming in the door without having to work harder necessarily. You can work smarter. And so that's what we're all about here at Lewin Media and Lewin University. So moving forward, I've been training and speaking for well over my 12-year career. Even before that, when I was in financial services, I was speaking and doing workshops. It's something I thoroughly enjoy. I've been doing webinars for well over 8 years. And you can see here in 2018 or 2013, 5 years ago, I was training classrooms. I didn't have this amazing beard, but it still was very effective. And now in 2018, still doing the same thing, training. I've done stuff, speaking engagements for the ABOR, the Women's Council of Realtors, for a number of other associations and organizations, a lot more coming in 2019. I've also trained organizations like the Toyota headquarters. I've worked with Interscope Records, Michigan State University, a number of large organizations, all the way down to small businesses, to the small e-commerce shops, to the individual realtors, to even agencies. I've trained them in their digital marketing efforts. So when it comes to this, I thoroughly enjoy it. I love teaching. I love sharing what we're doing and what's successful and how people can use this to make their business better and make their lives better, because that's what it comes down to. Our business and our lives all come together. So secret number one, we're going to jump into this: how a niche will take you from 0 to 1.5 million. Well, here's a quick little story. If anyone knows who this is the late and great Prince. And Prince, as you might know, is a very unique character. But there's a great story. If you go back to 1981, he was opening up for the Rolling Stones. And the Rolling Stones were playing at the LA Coliseum, and they asked Prince, Mick asked Prince to open up for him. And the first time that Prince came out there, he was wearing what Prince wears, which you can see here, women's underwear, a trench coat, and he came out playing what he was playing and his music. And the crowd booed him off stage. He got pissed, he left, and he went off stage. He flew all the way back to Minnesota and was not going to do the next show the next day. And Mick called him up and begged and pleaded him to come back and do the second show. So Prince did, and he opened up the show for him, and he played a full set for 25 minutes, but still got booed. The crowd of the Rolling Stones did not like Prince whatsoever. So what Prince decided at that moment was that, guess what? I'm never going to open up for another band ever again. And the major reason why is that his crowd isn't someone else's crowd. His crowd is his audience, and his fans are clearly not the Rolling Stone fans. And so he never wanted to put himself in that situation. And his career turned out to be pretty good. If you have to ask really anyone in the rock and roll community, he's done enormous things and changed the game and really what he's done. So he's a Hall of Famer, and he went from understanding where he was opening up for other people to niching down and sticking to his target audience, and that worked out really, really well for Prince. Another company, major company you might know, by the name of Amazon. If you remember way back in 1998, 1999, Jeff Bezos started Amazon, and when they started, they were an online bookstore. That's all they were focused on, was online bookstore. And they didn't make a whole lot of money at first, but eventually they did, and they started taking over the world essentially. And you see now that they are in a number of different markets across the world. And that just goes to show, though, that Amazon, just because you start in a niche, though, you can always expand. So when we talk about niching down today, it isn't necessarily to pigeonhole yourself into one particular market, but it is to say, all right, I need to focus more on this so other people understand what I provide and can think of me easily. And then they can refer me to more people. And then once I start building up enough business where I'm doing, 15, $20 million in transactions per year, I can open up and start doing more. I can hire an agent, a buyer's agent or a seller's agent, or we can expand into different locations, maybe in different cities, maybe go into, another local city in the area and you open up a branch there. Whatever your dreams and ambitions are, doesn't have to stop with your niche. You have to start with your niche. That's the key here. And that's where all these great companies have come about and where they started. So another example here is Whole Foods. So a great example, they started in 1978. And they opened up the first Whole Foods market, which was a natural grocery supermarket. And there weren't very many. And now, a couple of years later, a lot of years later, last year they sold, or in 2017, they sold to Amazon for 1.3 or 1.2, I think it was $1.3 billion. And so they did very well for themselves. And that all started by being just a natural grocery store, a very niche grocery market, but they made it work. Another famous company that some of you might know of is Apple. Apple did the same thing. They started off with these computers. Everyone thought they were crazy. They came out with these computers. They did so well. And then Steve Jobs, all that drama happened within the company. When Steve Jobs came back, he completely revolutionized the entire industry. And now they're valued as the first $1 trillion company. And that all started with a computer, but then expanding into other markets and creating new inventions and innovations and technologies that have changed and revolutionized the world and how we do things. And so it all started with one particular product and then expanded from there. So again, you have the opportunity to start off in a niche and grow as big or stay as small as you want, but it all starts with a niche. And so getting into the secret number 2, identifying your perfect client. This is where we really have to start thinking about ourselves and who we work with best. The best way to do this, and I'm going to switch the screen around so I can actually share a whiteboard and start typing things out so we can talk about this. But does anyone right now have a niche? Or have an idea of what niche they might want to work with. And it's okay if you're not 100% complete and agree on this, but just, throw it in the chat box. If you got an idea of what your niche might be, throw it in there, or maybe you're working with a particular type of client right now, throw that in the chat box. We'd love to hear with it. Obviously for us, we are focused on the real estate industry. And we're a marketing and training company that does that. So when I say that to people, the key is that when I say this to people, they're like, oh, wow, really? And sometimes it actually works in the opposite effect. It's not in the opposite effect, but it works in a different baby boomers downsizing. Great, right? That's a fantastic niche. Baby boomers downsizing. Those are great. That's a great specific niche to work on. And there's ways to use this. And this is what we're going to talk about, because once you identify your niche, then you can easily start marketing to them in a lot of different ways. And again, it comes back to it. People know what you do. They think about it right away. They think about it, and then they want to work with you, or they know how to refer to you easily. If you say, I help people buy real estate, everybody does that. All right. Every realtor that's around, and everyone knows, at least 5 realtors in their close network. So it's not differentiating yourself from anyone else. It's not giving them a specific type of person to talk to or think about, and it doesn't stick out. They're going to forget that they're going to know you're a real estate agent, but when someone comes to them and says, I'm a baby boomer, or they're like, I'm older and I'm downsizing, my kids have left the house, I'm looking to, go in a different direction, and looking for a smaller place and sell my place, then they're not going to think of you right away unless you tell them, hey, I'm Rick. I work with baby boomers and help them with their downsizing. As soon as they hear that, perfect. They know who to talk to. So that's the key here, is that to think about it. And also, when you tell people, hey, I specialize in baby boomers and downsizing and helping them downsize during their certain life events, then they're going to be like, oh, great. But they're also going to be like, do you only work with baby boomers? And you're like, yeah, I do work with other people, but that is my specialty. That's what I focus in on. And in some circumstances, that works for your favor, because people are like, when they hear they can't work with you, or maybe they're interested in that you specialize in a certain thing and it doesn't fit their profile, they're almost intrigued and want to work with you more. So it's kind of like the effect of not being able to get what you want, or not being able to have that opportunity. You want it sometimes more, not having it. All right, so good. Baby boomers downsizing. Please let me know if you got any other niches here. Love to show you some examples, but we're going to jump into the whiteboard so I can show you some of this. All right, let me move this over. Great. Okay, so I already put a couple things in here, but like the first one is life events. This is easy, but again, think about yourself. Who do you relate with? What are you going through? What have you gone through recently that you can share with other people, that you have an expertise in, that you can provide feedback to people in all this? A couple different areas to think about. One, life events. You might be a retired veteran. I meet a lot of realtors who have served in our armed services. And we thank you so much I thank you so much for your service and what you've done for us in the country. And they are veterans, and so they can, obviously, depending on what areas you can focus specifically on veterans. And there are certain communities that are larger than others. Like down here in Texas, the veteran community is very large. So being a realtor who's a veteran can relate and help them through that process. Because they get some special help, there's special VA loans, there's all sorts of things. And so understanding that, or maybe it's even working with people who are currently in the armed services. So understanding what their needs are and what they're looking for, and just being able to relate to them a little bit better is obviously very helpful. So veterans want to support veterans, and that's a great place to start. Another one might be young families who are new homeowners, or first-time homeowners. That could be a niche. Another one could be young families who are upgrading. That could be another niche. Maybe they bought a house before they had kids, and now their family's starting to outgrow the place that they're currently in, and they need to upgrade and expand because their family is bunkered down in a 1,100 square foot 2-bedroom house, and that is just not going to do well for a family of 5 with a couple pets. So it's time for them to upgrade and to expand and go into another area, but they want to stay in a specific neighborhood. So you have to think about these life events. Another one could be newly married. They're newly married. They've come into this newly married. So they're newly married and they are ready to buy their first home. Or maybe they have a condo or something, depending on where you're located at. A lot of times people might, when they're single, might have bought a condo and now they're married and they want to, again, upgrade to a home or perhaps to a larger condo. So you have to think about these things and these events and where you've been at and where you, and that's so far removed too. So baby boomers, downsizing is one. Another one, which is great, divorcees, people who have recently been divorced and they are either selling the place or downsizing as well. So those are great niches, and these are life events. You got to think about what you've gone through. Location can be another one. So you can start here, and then you can even narrow it down to specific locations. Or you can actually start with locations and so locations could be like if you own specific area, like if people are in the suburbs of Chicago and they run that area, that's a great place to have a niche. Knowing areas are good because, again, it's not very specific. It could be specific. You'd be young families in the North Shore area of Chicago. That could be a niche. Or you could just own that area, the North Shore area. I know the area. That's not very niche. It's not very, very specific, but it's specific enough to start off with, and then you can kind of grow from there. Did not spell that correctly. So, it could be you own an area, a city, or a neighborhood, depending on what neighborhood you might be in. So you got to think about these areas and figure that out. Those are great places to start off. A community, so, you might be, might be a lesbian, or might be a gay couple, transgender, minorities, might be a Latino or Latina. You might be Black, you might be Jewish, whatever it is, you can own those communities. And especially if you're really transplanted in that, or, Christian based to Catholic, I don't know if Catholic is, you can go off into religions a bit, I guess, but that's really up to you. Getting millennials out of parents' homes. That's a good one. Yeah, absolutely, Rick. Totally. And I'm sure the parents would be extremely grateful for anyone who's helping millennials get out of homes, but that could definitely be a niche. Another thing is that you could start off with more than one niche. I wouldn't really go beyond like two, but if you said like, all right, I want to do baby boomers downsizing, and at the same time, I'm going to help get their get their kids who are millennials out of their parents' house. That could be another one, because that works really well together. And then it helps you to get both sides, right? You're not only helping them downsize, but you're helping them downsize by getting the kids out of the house and into their own home and becoming, putting on their big girl or big boy pants. And so they're grateful on both sides. And that's a great relationship to start off with, and a fantastic, really niche. So there's a lot that can be done around these, but identifying them is a major factor. So once you identify these people, you also do need to, although like if you say, I'm just going to do baby boomers and downsizing, you still need to start identifying the location in which you're going to serve. And that could be a broader area. It doesn't have to be one specific city, but let's say you're in the Austin area and you want to cover some of the suburbs up in the Austin area. You want to cover Cedar Park, Leander, Liberty Hill, Georgetown, Round Rock, Liberty Hill. You can cover all those areas and help those people, those specific niches. So, owning a location isn't have to pigeonhole yourself by just having that niche, but having that bigger location with a niche is better because you obviously can serve more people that way. So I would definitely think about that, and then start thinking about these other things that these niches are going through, what interests them. Downsizing, what are they downsizing? What sort of things go along? One thing that can, like, things that you can remove one off. So let me go back to this. Went there. So if we talk about this and we go down to interest or other events leading up to downsizing, or leading up to your niche, really. So things like, obviously getting married, talking about the financial situation, taxes. These are kind of topics that are still that help them. They start thinking about these things and how all this needs to work together. Another thing could be, downsizing could be something along the lines of thinking about what do you do? What do you do with all the stuff that you've accumulated over the years in your home when you downsize? So you have to start thinking of these topics and these things that are relating to the situation that helps them kind of as they're going through this process. The reason for that is that you can pull some interest out there, but also you can start using this to create information that draws people in to you. So if you're targeting people and you're talking about topics that are one removed from right before they're about to sell or buy a property, it helps to draw them in because they're going to start doing research. Everybody does research on the internet. It's just how the world works right now. And so if you're not up there and you're not being present and you're not sharing this information, once you identify your niche, then although you have a niche, which is great, no one's going to see or know who you are and what you're doing with that. So having that information, even though you might really be focused on door knocking or some of this offline stuff, having an online presence is extremely valuable and important to being successful and to building up this business once you identify your niche. So this is a major factor. So start thinking about these interests, these other interests that are that can relate to your group. Young families, like how does other topics that could be, school system, school areas, like schools and the neighborhoods that are around. So, schools and neighborhoods, could also be, another niche too here, which could be a life event, is investors. And you could even talk about, picking one of these and talking about new home builds. That's another one. But, talking about this, school systems, the economic developments in certain cities. So a great example of this is that once you identify your niche, let's say you're owning the certain areas, like I know for us where we live in Leander, if you own this area, there's great things to talk about that pertain to people that are also one removed. For example, there's a lot of the Leander ISD, the Leander school system is fantastic. There's a lot of great schools in the area. They're always opening up new ones. The other thing is that economic development, they're putting in a new downtown shopping / living area, which is sort of like the Domain that's here in the Austin area. And it's a really new kind of concept that is combined with living and eating and shopping all in one area, and it's becoming the downtown area in Leander. They just opened that up and started breaking ground, so that will open up more living opportunities, but obviously more jobs. Then they just opened up the Austin Community College campus here downtown, and they also had a hospital, emergency hospital area open up too, and all of those are adding jobs to the area, which obviously help with the value of the homes. So what is that good for? Well, anyone who's looking to buy, that's a great time to do it because their property is going to see value increase in equity pretty quickly. The other thing is that if you have investors, it's a great time to do it too because the pricing is still fantastic. So these are things that you can start to pay attention to when you understand what your niche is and start talking to that. Another example is like, for instance, for me, because we focus on the real estate industry, we could talk about the shifts in the real estate, some of the new technology tools that are coming up, some of the new developments, anything that's pertaining in the news, what some of these brokerages are doing. I mean, obviously you have a lot of companies like Compass and Keller Williams and EXP and some of these other companies that are, making some heavy pushes in either acquiring companies or putting, using a lot of technology and developing new technologies and pushing that out there, revenue sharing models. So helping them educate on that and letting the other agents, whether they're new or existing, understand what is going out there because they're not constantly always inside of this, although that's their industry. They're not always there. So if you can provide some information, plus if you could talk about things like, you talk about like sales, how to help them increase sales, how to handle their finances, bringing in partners. This is great. You can bring in partners too that help you, people that are help with mortgages. Obviously, those are easy people to target. Insurance is another easy industry to partner up with and start providing information that's relevant to them. So just once you identify what your niche is, you start to need to think about the interests and other events that lead up to whatever that situation might be. They might be selling the house, maybe upgrading, downsizing. Start to think about those topics, and you're going to need to use those as we get into the advertising and marketing side of things. So with that said, let's do that. Let's switch it around and jump back into over here. And so we're going to talk about secret number 3, which is targeting the perfect client online and offline. Who here uses, real quickly, because we have about 20 minutes here of our time together, what do you guys want to hear more about? Do you want to hear about the organic, how to use this from organic social media standpoint, or how to actually use this from a advertising standpoint? How to generate more leads, essentially, is what it comes down to. Just type in the chat box, organic social media or lead generation. Because although the organic will come with, all right, let's see. All right, I'm just gonna go into the, let's see, we got one. Lead gen. Okay, that's what I was going to lead with anyways. All right, so let's go into the lead gen real quickly. Here is, okay, so you are seeing my, this is the ad manager. So we're going to go into Facebook real quickly, and we're going to talk about how this works. And this works a couple different ways. Now, first, you're going to have, you can go after buyers, and if you're going after buyers, you're going to have an easier barrier to entry on online lead generation. So let me just share this whiteboard real quick again so I can type in some things. Let's just let's put in a new one right here. So with buyer lead gen, you can go straight for the lead capture. You can create some advertisements, and we have a process that shows you how to do that, specifically how to go after the buyer lead gen and just capture their information. You can capture their name, phone number, and email address. And that's pretty easy to do. So you just go after them right away. Now, what we're finding, the seller side is a little bit different. So seller side, sellers, listings, downsizing, all this stuff is a little bit of a longer play. And so how this process typically works is that you got to warm them up a little bit. So you got to warm them up to start with, and then you move into capturing their information after you warm them up. Now, how you do that is you actually, with the warming up, you can start off with a video talking about who you are and how you can help them, plus what makes you different. And a lot of times what makes you different is that your niche, right? Like what you're focusing in on is a big part of this. So this is what we call a sales funnel. And in the marketing world, it's taking people through the top part. You're getting them at the top of the sales funnel. You're putting them in there, and then you're nurturing them through the bottom. The bottom is obviously them becoming a client and closing the deal. But to warm them up, there's a couple different ways. You can obviously have a video talking about who you are and how you can help. There's another way where you can actually create content, such as a blog post or have a guide, but a blog post will do perfectly fine. And you just need to funnel people into that blog post. And when you get to funnel people into that blog post, what happens is that they're going to read it, they're going to experience it, and then you can target people who, after who've read that, into actually capturing that information. You're warming them up, you're letting them know more about what you do, what your thought processes are, and that's extremely important. So spending some time and writing a very thorough piece, sort of like something of interest, like this for the downsizing. What do you do with all the stuff in your home when you downsize? Well, that's a great question. Or you could talk about, what's the best process or top 10 things to look out for when you're downsizing in a new home, or when you're downsizing in your life. So those are topics like right there. You have to think about it. You have to have a little bit of a what they call, kind of a clickbait-ish, something that attracts in the title that's attractive, but having like top 5, top 10, top 7, or what not to do when downsizing. Those are also great topics to really discuss, what not to do in this, types of things to look for, your complete downsizing guide. These are things that you can use to draw people in. And once they start to read this and understand it, then you retarget them with another ad that really then approaches them to submit their information to schedule an appointment with you to talk about selling their home or buying their home. Because you can actually use that same funnel for the buyer side too, but we have a specific process that's a little bit more straightforward with the buyer side. So being that Rick was talking with us about the seller side, let's just jump into how you can go about using these ad campaigns in Facebook specifically, and then how to set up a process. So we got about 15 minutes, which should give us enough time to jump into all of this. So first and foremost, let's talk about, we're going to go into here. This is your ad manager. If you don't know how to get in your ad manager, we could definitely talk about how to do that, but I'm just going to assume you know how to. And this is what it looks like majority of the time, is that when you come in here, and if you've already added up an ad, you'll have this part of it set up. And it's going to look at the campaigns, ad sets, and ads. The campaign level is where you're going to set your objective. And in this particular instance, if we're sending somebody to a blog post, let's say, for example, then we're going to use a campaign objective that is traffic. So you see here, it's traffic. It's going to send them to a website, a specific URL. If you're trying to capture their information and you want to get their lead going, and you want to get, oh, okay, hold on one second. I thought I was sharing. Okay, thanks for that, Rick. Let's go into this real quickly. So if we back up, if you go in the ad manager, I'm assuming you know how to get in the ad manager. These are the different levels. You have a campaign, ad sets, and ads. You have one campaign, and you can have multiple ad sets under a campaign, and then you can have multiple ads under your ad sets. So let's go back here. If you go to create your campaign, you're going to put in a name. We can call this downsizing. Let's say downsizing warm up, because we're going to warm them up with some traffic. So we're going to take them here. We're going to send them to a specific traffic. And then the ad sets here is going to be the audience. So we're going to call them baby boomers downsizing. And we're going to call this blog post for downsizing. All right. So as soon as we have all those 3 areas covered, you don't have to do anything else here. We're going to hit save to draft, and then it's going to create a new campaign. So it's going to open up this part, which is the editing part. If you ever want to get to the editing and you can't go there, you just click. This is typically like on the right-hand side. You just click here on the pencil and you come here, and it's going to start you at the campaign level, which is just setting the objective. Then the ad set level is where you set the budget and the audience for this. So it's going to ask you what type of traffic. Do you want to send that as a messenger or WhatsApp or website or app? Here, I'm going to just leave it as a website because we're going to take them to a specific landing page. And then everything else here is going to stay. We're not going to touch any of this. And then this is where you start with your ad budget. I recommend an ad budget if you're just starting off in the ad world to begin with, before you really know what type of results you're going to get. Start off with anywhere between $10 to $20. Then you can always expand from there. So you could always go to $50, $100 a day. But once you figure out what's working, and you can scale up. The beauty in this is that you're going to start seeing, all right, some traction. You're going to see some click-through rates. Then you're going to be like, all right, let's bump it up to $33 a day or $50 a day. And then you should be able to see it's continue to maintain that, if not get better results as you scale up. So just keep that in mind. But we're going to keep this as like 20 bucks. We're not going to touch any of this. And then we're going to create an audience. So Facebook recently changed this back in, I think, September, where they took away their partner data. Basically, they partnered up with data brokers, the top 5 data brokers in the world, and they were pulling in information like likely to move or homeowners, and they had this information available. That is no longer available. They still have some of that information that's strictly from Facebook, but they no longer have this partnership. So what this has done is actually has opened up to be more general, but in the generalness, it actually has been working out better, almost in some sense. So you just have to be careful, but you got to pick your locations. This is where it comes down to. You can pick specific cities, like if we do Cedar Park, we can do that. It will pick, it will set a radius of 25 miles. What I recommend usually is just to go to current city only. Also up here, the locations, make sure you pick people who live in this location, because if not, you're going to get everybody who's either visiting, they might be, grabbing some coffee and they live down in South Austin or in other cities, and they're just on their phone and they happen to see your ad. But you want to get people who actually live there. So you do that. Other ways you could target this is like you can target it by zip codes. You can go, pick a zip code, enter that in there, then that'll pick that up. You can enter in multiple zip codes. You could also enter in addresses, like we do 201 East 6th Street. So if we pick an address, what you can actually do with the address is you can, let's say maybe the address is people in your location that you're targeting in your specific, maybe around your home. You want to target your neighborhood, so you can do that with the zip code, or you can do that with an address, or maybe you sold a home recently. This is again for something else. Maybe you sold a home in a neighborhood and you put that address in the home you sold, and you can use this and you can target, mile to 50 miles. So you can go in there and add in, let's say you want to do a 2-mile radius. You could do a 2-mile radius of just that location. So you're only targeting those people. That's going to be a much smaller pool of people, understandably. But let's see, like if we pop that out, you're going to see that it's only going to reach, still, if you look at a 2-mile radius, that's 250,000 potential people just in this area. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we're going to have to bring it down some more. So understanding your niche and what their age group, let's say they're downsizing, and they're baby boomers, you might want to start off from 50 up to 65 plus. So that will significantly lower the amount of people, 47,000. The higher you can have the potential reach, the better. But you still have to work within what your niche is. So, this is the thing. And let's say, for example, you can always have multiple ad sets, but the ad sets is where you determine the budget for this particular type of ad set and also the audience. So this is where you would, if you, let's say you work with baby boomers, but you also work with millennials, you could have different ad sets for the millennials versus the baby boomers. Or, for example, another one here is that, let's say you are, you're targeting baby boomers who are downsizing, but also you want to target baby boomers to help them with their kids and getting them out of the house. And not all of them are necessarily going to downsize. But if that's the case, then you have to create a different ad that can target baby boomers, but are just targeting a different type of demographic. Or talking about a different service is what I meant there. So anyway, go back to the age, pick the location. And then there are some interests here that you can go into that people, might find for the real estate, like Zillow. You can put in there, people are interested in Zillow. You can also put in things like, they'll start giving you suggestions based off of that. Trulia, homes.com, Redfin, they have all this stuff. And these are all interests. These aren't like saying people are actually interested in doing this. However, what you definitely, and I don't, for right now, I like to keep it more general, so I don't recommend that. What I do recommend though is excluding some people, especially for realtors, excluding realtor. If you put in realtor, you can see a job title, putting that in there. Real estate, let's put in that. Real estate broker, you can have real estate associate, real estate assistant. So the list goes on and on. There's more real estate brokers, but having those included, that helps to weave out so you won't get in front of people who are competing or who obviously do what you offer. So this is one way creating an audience. Another way, which I highly recommend, is creating what they call a custom audience. Now, a custom audience can be done for a number of different ways. One, if you have an existing database of people that you've worked with in the past or who look like your exact client, maybe they're a bunch of baby boomers, you got a list of 100 of them or more, and you can upload it to Facebook and create what they call a lookalike audience. So when you create this, prospect, you put in the prospecting list, or maybe you have prospecting and existing clients and also lifetime clients, aka past clients. I don't like to say past clients, I like lifetime clients, because they are always going to be clients for you if you work them the right way. So making sure you put all that information in there. And if you have a database, you just put it in a spreadsheet. You create an Excel spreadsheet or use Google spreadsheets, and you put all the information. All you really need in there, honestly, is their name. Well, you actually don't even need their name. You just need a phone number or email address. That's all you need. And then you need a minimum of 100 of them, and you can upload it to the custom lookalike list or custom audience, and then create a lookalike list off of that. And what a lookalike list is basically Facebook's going to say, all right, I understand who these people are. They're on Facebook. I'm going to create a lookalike audience that looks just like them. So you're going to get more of your ideal prospects or ideal clients, and Facebook's going to do the work for you. So it's a great way of really just getting a better targeted audience and using that. And then what you're going to also do later on is that, let's say we get this ad set up. So we have this set up. We're going to go and we're going to move on to the ad side of things. And in the ad side, you got to pick your page. And if you have multiple pages like I do, you got to make sure you pick it, and then you create an ad. So there's a couple different ways. You can use an image. I recommend using custom images, not stock images. Facebook does allow stock images. They have them on here. You can go in here and get stock images if you want, but I don't recommend them. They don't produce very well. As far as like people don't really understand it. And so you have to make sure that, or not they don't understand it, but it just looks too generic. Having custom images for you and for your business, even if you got to pay a photographer for a couple hours to take some images of you doing work, pretending that you're working with a client, or maybe you are working with a client and capturing some of that information. And also you can use homes that you've listed in the past. Having and including those are fantastic. What's even better though is having a video. Video boosts sales tremendously. Reason is that people want the face-to-face. They want to see you. They want to experience you. They want to hear you. They want to see how you talk, how you interact. And then obviously you can get a lot more through in a video than you would in just a simple text. So make sure you do that and use the video to your advantage. And it doesn't have to be a high production video. It simply can just be using your smartphone, which we all have capabilities of doing, putting it up, shooting a video, make sure it's not shaky, obviously, having good audio there and the lighting and everything along those lines. It doesn't have to be perfect. But again, a lot of times those work really, really well, and just shooting and then giving them a kind of behind the scenes and reasons why you are a great person to work with. But what's even better, so that's one way of doing it. Obviously, if we're talking about sending them to a blog post, we don't necessarily need to create a very long video talking about what we do. The video can actually just be like, hey, listen, we gotta, if you're a realtor and you're looking, or not realtor, if you're a baby boomer and you're looking at downsize, we have the top 10 reasons or top 10 things to look out for when you're going and downsizing. And that it includes, you could give them like 3 examples real quick and say, hey, if you're looking to, get more information, check out our blog post, click the link below and go over there and take a read, and you can get a lot more information. And boom, perfect, you're done right there. Simple as that, really easy. Or you can just use an image that obviously helps showing, maybe you have a picture of a property that you help sell and you're talking about downsizing, so you can push them towards there. When you create these ads, you are going to create, after you get the image down, you're going to make sure you stick with the website. You're going to put in some text. It should be really simple, straightforward, guiding people to click on the link. What I recommend is putting the link in the ad, the text, at least a couple times, depending on how long it is. And then obviously including the link down here, and then having a headline. You don't necessarily need a newsfeed link description, but the headline is important, having it there. And then clicking here to learn more is perfectly fine. And then away you go. And so the thing you want to make sure though is that you have a Facebook pixel on your website, specifically on the page that you're pushing people to, because that way what you're going to do is then build a custom audience that's tracking people that come to your page. So if we go up here to the ad manager and come across to audiences, this is the place that you'll upload your custom audience for the list that you have. But you also, if we pick this and we go to a different I'm going to just finish this up and then we can open up to any questions that you guys have. But if we just click here, go to custom audience, and they're going to ask you what kind of custom audience. So to create that list, to upload the list, you do the customer file. For the traffic, and this is where you want to make sure you have the pixel. And if you don't know how to enter code on your website, and this is something you want to definitely reach out to your website webmaster, someone who's managing your website. Maybe it's an IT person within your brokerage. If you don't have somebody and need some help with that, you can always reach out to me, and I can share some information and how to go about doing that, or we can actually do it for you. And then in other circumstances, if you just want to pay someone to do it, very inexpensively, you can go to like websites like Upwork or Fiverr, and they definitely have people on there that can do that for you fairly quickly. So put the website traffic. This is where we're going to go for the sending people. You're going to go here and you're going to have a pixel. It'll show you the pixel that you have set up. And then you're going to do not what all website visitors, but you're going to pick the specific page and you're going to enter that information in there. And then let me just see. What's the best way? Well, there's obviously a lot of tools out there, Rick, that you can use for doing this. And not the easiest, but Facebook has everything you can learn about Facebook Manager. You can go in there and read all this information for free. The only issue with that is that it's so robust. They basically give you everything. So you have to then spend a lot of time picking and choosing what information that you're trying to gather. Like, you don't necessarily need to know what every single campaign objective does right away if you're just looking to get a campaign like this up. What is the easiest or best way to learn is that we actually have a training course that teaches how to set up either a seller or a buyer or both campaigns, and we give you all the tools that you need to get it up and running. You just have to customize it to your business. So in the follow-up email, and if you're interested, Rick, we can talk about that a little bit more. That's what, obviously I'm biased because this is what we do, but it's the best in my eyes. That's the best way to learn about it, because then you have to learn specifically what you're trying to do. If you want to go beyond that and you want to learn about everything in Facebook Ad Manager, then I highly recommend just going to Facebook and looking up their tutorial information. It's a lot of content, and you got to sift through a lot of it. I mean, I printed it up. I don't know if it's sitting around here. I printed up the entire thing on Facebook Ad Manager is roughly about like that thick if you print it out. So there's a lot of information to it. Just down and dirty instruction. Yeah, so I would recommend taking our training course. It gives you really just the nitty gritty of what you're looking for, and it gets you up and running within a couple hours instead of having to spend days upon days trying to learn all this stuff. So that would be my recommendation. And I can definitely point you in that direction, depending on if you're looking to do sellers, we have a seller course. And if you're looking to do buyers, we have a buyer course. And we have one that we normally recommend, which is both the buyer and seller, just because the buyers are obviously easier to come across as far as lead generation with online. The sellers takes a little bit more an effort, but it's still very doable. It just takes a little bit more time. So we always recommend doing some buyers first and then doing the sellers. But if you want to, I can send you that information and we can always talk offline a little bit more about how that can help you and what you're specifically looking for. So I'll make sure I follow up with you, Rick. So, all right, so we get here. Let me just finish this up real quick. So you put in the address, the specific URL, you put in the past 30 days, you can go as far as 60 and 90 days, and you can even include or exclude information in here that gets a little bit more technical. You just name that audience, and then you create the audience, and then they'll start pulling these people together, and then you can start targeting them. Another audience to think about is if, let's say you are creating a video and you put a video up there that you're just using to share with people. You can click on this, let me go back real quick. You click on engagement, and then in engagement, you have the video format. So you can actually target people who have watched a video, people who have viewed this 25% of your video, 50% of your video. I always recommend starting off with a little bit more time. 25 to 50% is the best place to start with. And then putting it in the past, depending on how long your video has been up, but you can put it in the last, 30, 90 days. And then you just name your audience and you create that audience, and then it will start accumulating all that information. So that's how you create these custom audiences and get the campaign up and running. There's we're 5 minutes over. So again, I want to respect you guys' time. There's more to this process. Once you get the ad set up, it's also what you do afterwards. which is also equally important in all of this. So it's not just driving people on the Facebook ad, but it's how you follow up and how do you use the tools. There's automation tools. If you're doing a lead generation campaign inside of Facebook, you got to make sure you got Zapier set up so you're getting notifications that people are coming through. So there's a lot to this, and it's not easily covered in just an hour. This is why we actually give you our entire process in our training. So if you guys are interested, I'm going to send out an email later today following up with you and providing some information. Plus, being that you sat on and participated and watched this video, and we're on the webinar, I'm going to give you a special discount too. So make sure that you have, since you signed up, we'll send that information out, and we'll go from there. If you haven't signed up, make sure you leave a comment or send me a message, and we'll get you hooked up with that information to help share that, so you guys can get this process up and running. So is there any specific questions before we wrap up today's talk that I can address for you? Thank you, Rick. Hey, of course, man. Hey, you're a good dude too. I appreciate you. I look forward to talking to you a little bit more about this and seeing how we can help you grow your business. So obviously having a downsizing, I think, is a fantastic niche, and especially if you're going after baby boomers and helping the millennials, you're going to cover a lot and you're going to do fantastic with that. So yes, I appreciate that so much. Thank you. So let me know if you have any more questions. I'm just going to keep this now on me and see if I can answer any more questions for you. And just a quick reminder, you guys can always go to Facebook Live. Oh, great. You can always go to follow us on Facebook and check out the website. Our website is www.brandonlewin.com. We got a lot of great information, free information up there, but also we have our trainings that are available up there. But like I said, I'll follow up with everybody on an email if you've signed up for the webinar, and you'll make sure that you get this information as far as the training and how we can help with you growing your niche and getting more people in your business and growing your business too. So it doesn't seem like we have any more questions. If you do, please go ahead and enter them in now. But I appreciate you guys and taking the time to sit down and listen to me go through all this. This was fantastic. You guys have a great rest of the day. Happy Wednesday. Go out there, knock them dead. Yeah, of course, Rick, thank you. And we'll talk to you guys soon. So I appreciate you guys.